Okay, we are continuing these mini lectures on the Savitch book for C++, edition 10, chapter 6, section 1. So the next topic that I want to talk about is errors on opening files. So what kind of an error can we get when we try to open a file? First is I'm trying to open a file and then it does not exist. So I'm looking into a directory. Remember, when you try to open the directory, open a file, it's going to look at the current directory. So your current directory, depending on what are you using, the IDE they use is going to be different places. You can change it. It's a default one. So for example, if you're using a Qt, it has a directory called build, and your file is going to be looking in that directory. If you're using code blocks, it's going to look at the current directory that code blocks is running. If you use a CLion, same thing. If you are using Mac, let's say using X code, then your files are going to be totally in a different area than your files are going to be. So we're going to practice that on the first day of our class, and we're going to figure out where it's going to be, and I show you how to do it. So if it's looking at a directory and the file is not there, then it cannot get it. Next one, if it's typed incorrectly. So I have uppercase, lowercase does matter. I might misspell it, especially for long file names. I might have a different extension. And most common mistakes that we do is we are saving something with txt and we're looking for dat or vice versa. So we have to be sure that we know how to get the full name of the file in our system. So if you don't know how does it work in your computer, you might want to Google it and know how do you find out what is the file name in your system? How do I see? I'm talking about the extensions of it. So example we had was baby names. So it can be babynames.txt, babynames.dat, baby names with capital B or lowercase b. So all variation, we have to be watching for those things. So what's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen. It's just going to move on. But now we are connected to a file that doesn't exist. I want to try to read something from a file that does not exist. So we're going to have a problem. So we got to figure out how to handle the problem. Lucky us, there is a function. Remember what I said about the classes and objects. When you are using an object of a class, then that object is going to have all the functions available to it. So in this case, there is a function called fail that can be true or false. So if it fails, it's going to be true. And if it's not failing, it's going to be false. So we can check that. Now, if I am opening a file for reading and it doesn't exist, I cannot do anything. So I have to stop my program. If I am opening a file for writing, if it does not exist, it's going to create it. It's going to try to create it. And if it cannot create it, then we're going to have a problem. So for reading, it's going to try to open it to reading. For writing, if it doesn't exist, it does create it. So for writing to fail is less likely than for reading. Maybe I'm going to try to write to a device that's not connected to my program or my computer or something like that, then it's going to fail. This is the way that the fail is going to work. Again, we are using dot operator to access the function called fail. to our object that we call it in a stream. You can call it anything you want. And then this function doesn't have any parameter, just like you were doing the functions with no parameter, with some parameter. This function doesn't have no parameters. And this whole thing is going to give us either true or false. So if this is true, that means what? I couldn't open the file. So if I cannot open the file, what I'm supposed to do? I cannot move on, so I have to stop. So to stop my program, there is a function available in the library that's called exit. So the exit function has potentially argument that's going to return that to the calling program. So my program potentially can be called with another program, and another program is calling the other one. So this is going to return that argument. It's going to stop the program. It is not a member function. It's a function by itself. Okay, let's look at it to see how does it look like. So it is in cstdlib, that's C standard library, that some of the newer IDEs have this included all the time, so you don't need to put it up there. CLion, I believe it has it in it, so you don't have to type it in. It's already there. And we're going to need the using a space, namespace std. So when we check and we cannot open it, especially for my reading, we're going to display something and we're going to exit. Generally, we don't want to display something because if it's in the middle of the night, you display something, nobody's going to see it. We're going to write to a log file for somebody to look at later. We don't want to make these too complicated right now. We want to focus on the things, but in real life, we don't write it to the screen, but we're going to do it right now. So it's going to exit one. Remember what we were doing with the main. With the main at the end, you would say return 0. 0 means no problem. In real life, you're going to put some number here that has some meaning somewhere else. So somebody's going to call and say, hey, my game is not working. Then it says, okay, what's the number that you're getting for error? It says 385. And the first person that you're talking to most likely is not a very technical person. It's just going to look up that 385 and it says, okay, 385 means this file is missing. So go ahead, copy this file or download this file and put it in this directory and it's going to work. So the number is going to indicate where and what is going to be the problem. But for simplicity for us right now, we're just going to put 1 for all of them. We don't not worry about it. But that's just the way it is in industry. So when you put a number here, you're going to have a table of what this one number is. But for now, we're just going to use 1. So we're going to look at the program doing this all together. So again, let's go over this program in certain part of it. So we are using this one for our exit. We are creating our objects over here in a stream, auto stream, however you want to call it. We're going to open this file. And if we cannot open it for any reason, we're going to display a message and we're going to exit, means the program is going to stop. Now, for the output, we do the same thing, but most likely this one is not going to fail because if it's not there, it is going to create it. So what I want to do for you to practice to see where your data files are supposed to be. I want you to type this in and then comment out your first exit. So when it gets here, we don't want to exit the program. So we're going to put the insert comment over here. So if I run this, it's not going to find this because we don't know which directory to put it in. And then, or you could just comment the whole section. So when we go to the output, it's going to create this file. So what I want you to do is look in your computer and find out where is this file, because it's going to create. So when you find where the location is, that's the place to put your input file. Most likely, every project is going to have their own directory. And in that directory, they're going to have certain place for the files. Some of them are going to put all of them in one location. Some of them has a different location. For Mac users, they can potentially put it in totally another place. So you have to know how to look up the file in your computer. You don't know how to do it, Google it. So if I comment this out, it's not going to stop right here. It's going to go and create this file in your computer. Then you find out where it is. That's the place you're going to put your input file to be able to read it. So the idea of it is what? To find the correct location for your files. Most likely they're going to be dependent to your projects. So if it's in this directory for this project, next project is going to be another directory located to the same one. Of course, whenever you're creating projects, it's going to create different directory, and in there, you would know where to put your input file and where is it going to create the output file. Okay, now I want you to pause this video and think about these questions, write it down, type it in, and let's talk about it in the DQ. Let's see how you're going to reflect on these questions. Again, when you're reflecting on it, then you know how much you don't know, or you reinforcing your learning. So let's do that, and then go ahead, put it on the pause and work on these things.